years, adoption. I chose this topic because I'm starting to become a speech-language pathologist, and I know development can affect language in many ways. I also have a cousin who was adopted from Lithuania and is experiencing significant developmental issues, especially in language, which affects her academic and cognitive level. A child's early years are from ages 3 to 5. These years would be considered the preschool years in Erikson's theory. According to the text, Lifespan Development by Sandrak, this theory entails that there are 8 stages of human development. Each stage consists of unique development tasks that confronts the individuals with a crisis that must be resolved. Early years from this theory would be considered the initiative versus guilt stage. He believes that children gain a sense of guilt during this time of their lives. Piaget's theory of development has 4 stages. Early years would fall under the pre-operational stage that states here children begin to represent the world with words and images and connect. Approximately 150,000 children are adopted each year. According to ASHA, Eastern Europe and China are where they are primarily adopted from. Concerns with development, both cognitively and psychologically, arise when adopting a child for the parents. For the purpose of this project, the effects of adoption on a child who falls in early years will be examined. Language development affects all aspects of academic achievement. From previous knowledge and studying to become this SLP, I know that one's proficiency in spoken language affects one's success in both reading and writing. The Journal of Clinical Child Psychology explains that adoptees have higher rates of academic difficulties. If I were to relate this to Piaget's theory, one would say that this is because they are unable to connect to the world with their own words. It is stated in our textbook, Lifespan Development by Sandrak, early years are the years children learn to become more self-sufficient and care for themselves, develop school readiness skills, and spend hours of time and play with their peers. These tasks are hard for a child who hasn't developed language because they revolve around socialization. A study found that adopted children in their early years do not differ in children who have their biological parents as their guardians in IQ, but do in aspects of language development and school performance. These are caused by one of 2 things. If a child in their early years is adopted by someone that speaks a different language than the language they are already developing, they have to learn a new language and forget the old one. As stated by ASHA, they typically have limited abilities in both languages. If a child is adopted by someone who speaks the same language they are already developing, the cause could be things such as lack of nurture. Nurture is defined as environmental experiences, which affect child's development overall. It is not uncommon for adopted child to suffer from social-emotional struggles. They may feel a sense of abandonment or confusion in their identity. If a child is adopted when they're an infant, they may not experience these issues as severe as a child that was adopted in their adolescence because they may not remember what it was like to not be adopted. A child in their early years can still develop these feelings because they are still able to remember the process of being adopted. A study examined children from 9 months to 9 years and found that intervention graduates had better attachment security, less indiscriminate friendliness, and fewer behavioral problems than those who did not receive intervention. Therefore, it is better for adopted children to receive these services like therapy. Adopted parents are able to choose preferences for adopting children. For example, one study found parents preferred girls and were against African American children. It is also a concern when parents adopt a child of a different culture or race that the child will forget their culture, especially if they were adopted in their early years. For example, according to the Journal of Ethnic and Migration Studies, Black children who are adopted by white families are likely to have a different identity from those children growing up in a Black family. Here are my discussion questions. It is evident that being adopted in a child's early years may cause social and emotional issues for the child, especially if they do not receive intervention. Based on this information, how could these social emotional issues affect the child in a long-term situation? How is language an important aspect of development, and how is it affected by adoption?